Ephesians chapter 4, 1 to 16. This is the kind of hinge moment in the book of Ephesians. So the first 3 chapters, it's like, this is what God has done for us. And then the last 3 chapters, chapters 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so what does that look like? How do we live because of all that God has done for us? How do we live it out? So there's a kind of flow there. And we're right at the hinge here in chapter 4, beginning at verse 1. And that's why Paul says, if you just look with me at verse 1, you've got a Bible, maybe it's up on the screen there. That's why Paul says, as a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you've received. You see chapters 1 to 3, here's the calling you've received. God saved you, He's forgiven you, He's loved you, He's adopted you. And now, okay, live worthy, live according to all of that stuff. So we're at the hinge moment in the book of Ephesians. Anyway, let me read verses 1 to 16. Children, look out for a number. There's a number that keeps coming up again and again and again. And see if you can spot that. And see if you can spot something as well that's really, really wobbly and wibbly. Okay? Just watch out for that. Okay, so Ephesians 4, 1 to 16. As a prisoner for the Lord, then, this is Paul speaking, as a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. But to each one of us, grace has been given as Christ apportioned it. This is why it says, when He ascended on high, He took many captives and gave gifts to His people. What does He ascended mean, except that He also descended to the lower earthly regions? He who descended is the very one who ascended higher than all the heavens in order to fill the whole universe. So, Christ Himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors and teachers to equip His people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. Then we will no longer be infants tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning and craftiness of people in their deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. From Him the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. The kids are growing up. You're growing up. You're getting taller. You're getting bigger. You're getting older. You're kind of knowing and learning more and more stuff, aren't you? Because of all the lockdowns that we've had, sometimes we've been away from each other for quite a while, and then we come back and we see you all, and you've like shot up. You've grown so much, and you're knowing and learning new things and doing new things. Maybe learning to talk or learning to walk or learning stuff at school. You're growing up. And we all grow and change, don't we? We all grow and change. That's just part of life all the time. Lots of things in our lives grow and change during those lockdowns. Some of the adults probably grew a bit, but we won't go into that. But we all grow and change, don't we, all the time. And Paul here in Ephesians 4, he describes the church as a body that's growing, just like your body. Kids, where's your body? Go and find your body. Where is it? This is your body, isn't it? It's all the different parts. And that's your body. And Paul says that the church is like a body that's growing. And the question this morning is, how can we grow up in Jesus? Okay, that's the big question this morning. How can we grow up in Jesus as a church? And there's 3 things. The first one is this. Guard our unity. Now, what I want you to do is just take a moment where you're sat, turn to the people who are near to you, and what I want you to work out is, what number does Paul keep mentioning? In verses 1 to 6, there's a number that he mentions over and over and over again. Adults, you might want to just read through the verses quickly, just highlight that for kids. just have a look at that and have a think about what is that number that Paul keeps mentioning in verses 1 to 6, okay? We're going to have a look as well, and we'll see. Right, you listening? Are you ready? So this is what Paul... Number? What's the number that keeps coming up in verses 1 to 6? Go on. Number 1, yeah, that's it, isn't it? One body, one faith, one Lord, one baptism, all this. I think, how many times? Anyone get how many times does Paul say the word one? I think I've just told you the answer. So, as someone else, let's be fair. If no one else has got it, I'll give it. It's an auction. Go on. 7, that's right. Yeah, I think it's right. I think it's 7 times. I wonder if that's significant. But yeah, one body, the church, one God that we worship and serve, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, one hope, and we believe in one faith. So what that means, kids, is that we're one. We're united. We're one. There's lots of us here, aren't there? But actually, we're one. We're united. We're joined together. But the question is, how do we keep one? How do we keep united? That's what Paul's thinking about. How do we keep one? How do we keep united? And he answers that in verse 3. He says, make every effort to keep the unity, the oneness, if you like, of the Spirit through the bond of peace. So the way that we stay one, that we stay united as a church, is through the bond of peace. So we keep peace between us. Yeah, we're not at war, we're not fighting, we're at peace. But how do we do that, right? Because we all fall out, don't we? Stuff happens, we fall out, we get stuff wrong, we make mistakes, we annoy each other or whatever, we get frustrated, and we do fall out. So how do we keep peace between us? Well, Paul gives us all the clues there. They're in verse 2. If you want to look with me at verse 2, he says, be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. So how do we guard our unity, our oneness? We keep the bond of peace. How do we do that, Paul? Well, it's about being patient towards each other. That's what Paul says. Being humble towards each other. Bearing with one another over time. And over all of that, loving each other. That's what Paul says. Love each other. And that's how we'll grow up in Jesus. That's the first way that we grow up in Jesus. Loving each other, guarding our unity. You just feel, and this happens to us, it happens to me, sometimes you just feel far from God. Don't know why. You just feel further away from Him than normal. And then someone in church reminds you that you're adopted, that you're part of His family. And you may still feel far away. You may still feel that. But actually you're not. Actually you're in His hands and you're His child. That's speaking the truth in love, and that will encourage you and build you up. And you know what? Paul says if we don't speak the truth in love like that, then we get a bit wibbly wobbly. Now I've got something in here that's wibbly wobbly. Yes, Josh, that's right. Here's one I made earlier. So I mean, that is wibbly wobbly. These people don't like presents, so I'm not talking. But that is wibbly wobbly, isn't it? If anything was wibbly, do you want to have a poke and just see how wibbly it is? Go on, Hetty. Do you want to have a little poke and see how? Anyone? Go on, have a little poke and just see how wibbly it is. Is it wibbly? Go on, Ivy. Give it. Is it wibbly wobbly? It's a bit wibbly wobbly, isn't it? That is. Come on, who else wants to have a poke? Go on. Go on, Grace, give it, put all your fingers in there. Well, that's it. It's wibbly, isn't it? Is that wibbly wobbly? Anyone allergic to jelly? Sorry. Go on, Lee. Have a... Oh, Isaac's got some for... Yeah, that's wibbly wobbly, isn't it? That's very wibbly wobbly stuff. And Paul says, lost everyone now, Paul says that if we don't speak the truth in love to each other, then we get really wibbly wobbly, like a jelly. Now, Paul uses a different picture. There was a picture up on the screen. Paul uses the picture of a child, doesn't he? He says that we're like infants, tossed and blown around on a little boat in the sea, getting blown all over the place. It's unstable. We're in danger. We're wibbly wobbly if we don't speak the truth in love to each other. So there you go. Growing up in Jesus, what's it all about? Well, we guard our unity. We open the gifts, use those gifts of teaching in the church, and we speak the truth to each other. What's that really all about? It's about this. One word, which Paul uses twice in this passage. It's about love, isn't it? It's about love. Just think it through. How do we guard our unity? Well, Paul says, doesn't he, actually, at the end of the day, we love each other. How do we open those gifts of teaching? Well, our teachers love us, and so they teach us. And as we grow to love them, we listen to them, because we know it's good for us. And how do we speak the truth? Well, what does Paul say? Speaking the truth in... What does he say? Verse 15. Speaking the truth in, not in jelly, in love. Doesn't he? That's what he says. As we do those things in love, then we'll grow up to be mature in Jesus.